The news ticker flashed across screens in Caracas, its glowing words cutting through the morning haze. In a city where bad news had become routine, the sudden shift in headlines was impossible to ignore. People paused in their daily routines, eyes fixed on the scrolling updates, searching for meaning in every word. It was a rare flicker of optimism in a city long accustomed to despair. For years, hope had been a scarce commodity, rationed like bread or medicine. But now, on street corners and in crowded cafes, small groups gathered, voices hushed but faces brightening, daring to imagine a different future. The United States was easing some of its harshest sanctions on Venezuela's crippled oil sector. After years of isolation and economic pain, this policy shift felt monumental. It was as if a heavy door, long locked, had finally creaked open, letting in a sliver of light. For the first time in years, American and European oil executives were seen landing at Simon Bolivar International Airport. Their arrival was more than a business trip, it was a signal that the world was watching Venezuela again, and perhaps, ready to invest in its future. The air in the capital seemed to carry a new current of possibility. Sunlight broke through the clouds and the city's rhythm quickened, as if Caracas itself was waking from a long, uneasy sleep. Was this the moment the tide would finally turn for a nation drowning in crisis? Families gathered around kitchen tables, weighing cautious hope against years of disappointment. Young people who had only known hardship looked out over the city and wondered if change was truly within reach. For a generation that had only known scarcity, hyperinflation, and political turmoil, the idea of a revived oil industry felt like a distant dream. Empty shelves and endless lines had shaped daily life, and trust was hard-won. Yet, the possibility of relief, however faint, was enough to spark conversation and cautious excitement. Yet, the presence of foreign oil companies suggested this time might be different. Negotiations were underway, and the sight of handshakes between Venezuelan officials and foreign executives hinted at deals that could reshape the nation's destiny. The global energy map was being redrawn, and Venezuela, with its vast reserves, was once again a player. Oil tankers lined the coast, and pipelines that had long run dry now promised a renewed flow of wealth and opportunity. A functioning oil industry meant the potential for jobs, for medicine in hospitals, and for food on shelves. It meant the chance for families to rebuild, for children to dream, and for communities to heal after years of hardship. The stakes were impossibly high, with the fate of 30 million people hanging in the balance. Every decision, every headline carried the weight of a nation's hopes and fears, as parents wondered what kind of future awaited their children. The ticker kept flashing, each update a new chapter in this unfolding drama. In living rooms and on city streets, Venezuelans watched and waited, holding their breath as history was written in real time, hoping that this glimmer of hope would finally become something more. To understand Venezuela's catastrophic fall, one must first remember its dizzying ascent. In the mid-20th century, Venezuela was the envy of Latin America, fueled by a seemingly endless supply of oil. By the 1950s, Venezuela was the world's largest oil exporter. Caracas became a playground for the rich, a hub of stunning modernist architecture and luxury boutiques. Petrodollars funded ambitious public works projects, from universities to transportation systems. The Bolivar was so strong it was nicknamed the Fuerte, the Strong One. The country was a stable democracy in a region often plagued by military dictatorships. During World War II, Venezuela was a crucial supplier of oil to the Allied forces. However, beneath the gleaming surface, the seeds of future problems were being sown. The Golden Age was dazzling, but it was built on a fragile foundation. The 1970s marked the zenith of Venezuela's oil-fueled prosperity. Caracas, the capital, gleamed with new skyscrapers and bustling streets, a testament to the nation's newfound wealth. Oil was not just an export, it was the lifeblood of the economy, transforming Venezuela into one of Latin America's richest countries almost overnight. The 1973 oil crisis sent global crude prices soaring, and Venezuela found itself at the center of a worldwide energy storm. As oil became more valuable than ever, the country's coffers swelled with unprecedented revenues, fueling dreams of endless prosperity. Seizing the moment, the government embarked on a massive nationalization campaign, creating the state oil company PDVSA. This move was seen as a way to ensure that oil wealth would benefit all Venezuelans, not just foreign corporations. With revenues quadrupling, the reality was a spectacular spending spree known as La Gran Venezuela. The government poured money into ambitious infrastructure projects, imported luxury goods, and expanded public services, hoping to build a modern nation on the back of oil. But with so much money flowing, corruption metastasized as politicians and officials found new ways to siphon off petrodollars. Lavish parties and extravagant lifestyles became the norm among the elite, while transparency and accountability faded into the background. The nation imported everything from cars to food, hollowing out its domestic production capacity. Local industries struggled to compete with cheap imports, and factories began to close, making Venezuela increasingly dependent on oil and foreign goods. The belief was simple: the oil money would never run out. Many Venezuelans came to see oil as an inexhaustible resource, a guarantee of perpetual wealth and comfort for generations to come. This period cemented a deep-seated cultural belief that the state should provide for its citizens. Social programs expanded rapidly and people grew accustomed to generous subsidies, free education, and healthcare, all funded by oil. But the party came to an abrupt end in the 1980s with a global oil glut. Prices collapsed, and Venezuela's once booming economy was suddenly in crisis, exposing the dangers of over-reliance on a single commodity. Venezuela, which had borrowed heavily against future oil revenues, now found itself deep in debt. The government scrambled to secure international loans, but the money was no longer enough to sustain the old way of life. The era of abundance was over, replaced by austerity, soaring inflation, and growing social unrest. Supermarket shelves emptied, protests erupted in the streets, and faith in the government began to erode. It was in this climate of disillusionment and hardship that Hugo Chavez first appeared, promising to upend the old order and restore dignity to the Venezuelan people. His rise would mark the beginning of a new turbulent chapter in the nation's history. Hugo Chavez came to power in 1999 on a wave of popular fury. He promised a Bolivarian revolution to empower the poor and break free from American influence. Oil prices began a steady climb, giving Chavez the financial firepower for his social programs. Under Chavez, the state tightened its grip on the oil industry. He purged thousands from PDVSA, replacing technocrats with political loyalists. The focus shifted from maximizing oil production to using PDVSA as a political tool. As oil prices soared, money flowed into the country at an astonishing rate. Chavez used oil diplomacy to build alliances, supplying subsidized oil to friendly nations. However, the politicization of PDVSA led to a decline in competence and investment. When Chavez died in 2013, he left behind a nation socially transformed but economically precarious. Nicolas Maduro inherited a country on the edge of a cliff. Shortly after he took office, global oil prices plummeted. The government's revenue evaporated, but its spending commitments did not. Maduro's response was to print money, triggering a hyperinflation crisis. The economy went into freefall, and shortages of food and medicine became chronic. As the crisis deepened, the political situation deteriorated. Maduro cracked down on dissent, jailing opposition leaders. The Trump administration imposed crippling sanctions on Venezuela. These sanctions effectively cut off Venezuela from the U.S. financial system. The sanctions had a devastating impact on an already collapsing oil sector. Production plunged to levels not seen in nearly a century. Today, the situation remains dire but is showing faint signs of change. The Biden administration has cautiously re-engaged with Maduro's government. The story of Venezuela is a textbook example of the resource curse. The flood of easy money from oil exports created a culture of dependency. Corruption became endemic, poisoning every level of society. An estimated hundreds of billions of dollars were stolen over the decades. The physical infrastructure of the oil industry was left to rot. Under both Chavez and Maduro, PDVSA was starved of capital. The result is an industry in ruins, with refineries barely functional. Restarting this machinery will require tens of billions in investment. The global push towards renewable energy poses a long-term threat. Venezuela must find a way to build a more diversified and sustainable economy. The recent easing of US and European sanctions has opened a critical window of opportunity. Major international oil companies can legally re-engage with the country. Firms like Chevron have the capital and expertise Venezuela lacks. The global energy crisis provides the perfect backdrop for this tentative comeback. Venezuela, with the world's largest proven reserves, is an obvious candidate. A partial recovery of the oil sector could have an immediate impact on the humanitarian crisis. Even a modest increase in oil production could generate billions in new revenue. This money could be used to import food and medicine, stabilize the currency, and repair infrastructure. Economic engagement provides a platform for dialogue and negotiation. The hope is that economic normalization can create space for political normalization. The road is fraught with political obstacles and deep-seated mistrust. The path to recovery for Venezuela is littered with formidable obstacles. The need for deep political and economic reforms is significant. The country needs a stable legal framework that protects foreign investment. Without these reforms, new investment will be tentative and short-lived. There is a risk of repeating past mistakes with oil booms followed by busts. Breaking this cycle requires a profound cultural and political shift. Rebuilding trust is another monumental challenge. Years of nationalizations and broken promises have created deep mistrust. The political opposition is fragmented and suspicious of Maduro's motives. The technical and human capital deficits are staggering. Luring talent back will require the promise of a safe, stable, and democratic country. As of today, September 24, 2025, Venezuela stands at a historic crossroads. The choices made in the coming months and years will shape not only the nation's destiny, but also the lives of millions who call this land home. The world watches as Venezuela faces a pivotal moment, one that will be remembered for generations. The path forward offers a glimmer of hope, a chance to leverage its immense oil wealth. With the first rays of dawn illuminating the oil fields, there is renewed optimism that Venezuela can turn its natural resources into a foundation for lasting prosperity. The easing of sanctions and renewed interest from global energy players provide an opening. International companies are once again looking to invest, bringing expertise and capital that could help revitalize the industry and create much-needed jobs. Yet, the future of Venezuela will not be decided by the price of oil alone. Economic stability requires more than just favorable markets. It demands sound policies, transparency, and a commitment to long-term growth. For a sustainable recovery, Venezuela must confront the demons of its past. Years of political turmoil, economic mismanagement, and social unrest have left deep scars that cannot be ignored. It must use its oil revenue as a catalyst to build a diversified economy. Investing in manufacturing, agriculture, and entrepreneurship will help ensure that prosperity reaches every corner of the country, not just the oil sector. The international community has a crucial role to play. Through cooperation, humanitarian aid, and fair trade, global partners can support Venezuela's journey toward recovery and stability. A policy of pragmatic engagement offers the most promising way forward. Constructive dialogue and mutual respect can help bridge divides and foster an environment where progress is possible. Ultimately, the fate of Venezuela rests in the hands of Venezuelans. Their voices, their votes, and their determination will decide the nation's path. The challenges are immense, but this is a nation of resilient people. From bustling city streets to rural farmlands, Venezuelans have shown time and again their ability to endure and adapt. The ultimate question remains: can Venezuela harness its oil wealth to build a stable, prosperous future? The answer lies ahead, in a future yet to be written, shaped by the courage and resilience